जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः. So we were discussing the Gospel of Holy Mother, the reminiscences by Yogin Ma, who was very close to Holy Mother. In fact, she served Holy Mother, and after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, she had no place to stay. As all of you know, Holy Mother did not have her own place. Udbodhan was built much later when Swami Shardanandji took a loan at his own risk and built her a house, permanent house to stay. But that was in 1911. So from 1886, when Sri Ramakrishna passed away, for a few months, of course, they were allowed to stay in the Kashipur garden house, where Sri Ramakrishna was terminally ill with cancer. And after his passing away, the devotees decided to hire it for another 6 months till all the sevaks, all the would-be monastic disciples, Swamiji and all of them, practically they had left their homes. But some of them were forced to go back to their homes because the householder devotees did not believe that Sri Ramakrishna preached a monastic way of life. They were not aware that Sri Ramakrishna would call all his younger disciples separately. He would talk to them separately, the unmarried disciples, and give them specific instructions. Like he used to meet Swami Vivekananda and the other disciples who later on took the monastic vows. He used to meet them and call them on weekdays, so that on weekends there would be a lot of devotees who were householder devotees, and Sri Ramakrishna perhaps did not want to discuss many things which were specifically meant for these monastic disciples. But even amongst the monastic disciples, many of them were staying at home and visiting Sri Ramakrishna now and then. They had not fully given up their homes, like Latu Maharaj, Swami Adbhutananda. He had practically taken leave of Ramchandra Datta, in whose house he was working as a servant boy. He came from a very poor rural background of Bihar. And when Sri Ramakrishna saw the wonderful spiritual potential of Latu, as he was called at that time, he asked Ramchandra Datta that, can you spare him? I need somebody who would be useful. And towards the end of Sri Ramakrishna's life, Latu remained in the monastery. And he was getting trained to become a monastic. Of course, after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, they took the formal monastic vows in the house of Baburam Maharaj, where Baburam Maharaj's mother, Swami Premanandji's mother, invited them to Atpur. And in Atpur, they took the monastic vows on a Christmas day. It was on Christmas Eve, not Christmas Day. It was 24th of December. On Christmas Eve, they were spending their days there. All the monastic, there were 9 of them, I believe, or maybe there were 12. So they took the monastic vows, and the other 4 disciples who were not present, they took the vows later. So during that period, after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, these young people, these young would-be monastic disciples, except for Latu and some of them and Budo Gopal, that is Advaitananda, Swami Advaitananda, who was a widower. He had lost his wife and he was practically, he had given up his home and was staying permanently with Sri Ramakrishna. And there were some other disciples who had decided they would not go back home, but others were in touch with their parents and they used to come and go. They used to now and then stay in Kashipur because they were allowed to do that. But till a permanent monastery was built, it was not possible for these boys to stay somewhere. And it was so difficult that they wished that the place of sadhana, the place where Sri Ramakrishna had guided them and in fact advised them to stay together, and he had given the responsibility to Naren, who would become Swami Vivekananda. He just told him privately that please see that these boys don't go back home. They should stay together. Nothing was certain. They did not have a place, permanent place, till Suren Mitra decided to rent the haunted and dilapidated structure at Baranagar Mutt. But that was after 6 months. Since they had already paid the rent in advance, they could stay in Kashipur for a few more months till other alternative arrangements were made. And most of the householder disciples who were paying subscription to for the treatment of Sri Ramakrishna, and since they had already paid in advance the rent for another 6 months, they decided to continue that help. But after that, many of the householder disciples were advising these younger disciples who wanted to live in a monastery of their own, but they did not have the means to do that. And Holy Mother also, Sri Ramakrishna had told her that after my passing away, you go back and stay in our house in Kamarpukur and don't ask for any pecuniary or any help from anybody. He had made some provisions for her maintenance, 7 rupees per month, which was quite a good amount, provided she did not have any guests. That would have been enough for herself. Said, just don't ask any money from any householder. We should not depend on anybody. You just go back to Kamarpukur and stay there, grow some greens. They had some land and they would get a regular quantity of rice. So Holy Mother was advised by Sri Ramakrishna even before his passing away. He had so much foresight. He did not want her to, there would have been some disciples, at least householder, would have taken care of her expenses if she had decided to stay in Kolkata, like renting a house. But Sri Ramakrishna wanted her to be independent. And of course, Holy Mother was independent. And she was absolutely, though she was living in the household, she was more like a monastic, like a nun. So naturally, Yogin Ma, Golap Ma, who were widowed at a very young age, they found the company of Holy Mother very suitable for them. And they could live together, get spiritual guidance. And though Holy Mother stayed with Radhu and all her relatives, she practically led a life of total detachment, just as if a nun would live. And initially they were in Balram's home for some days, because obviously she could not stay in the monastery with Radhu and all these uh, people, the other Yogin Ma and all. But Swami Sharadanandji was very keen, but they themselves did not have a house to stay. So there was no question of building a small house, independent house for mother to stay, which he ultimately did in 1911 when they had shifted to Alambazar Mutt and then to Belur Mutt. Belur Mutt grounds were purchased with the help of the donation, the generous donation given by Miss Henrietta Muller, who paid about 30,000 rupees, 34,000 in those days, who was at that time living in Maidenhead in England. And of course, she was a very wealthy lady, and she decided to help Swamiji and all to buy a piece of land. The Belur Mutt land was purchased even before Swami Vivekananda entered into Mahasamadhi. So he could see the new monastery being built. So for some time, Holy Mother also lived in the Nilambar Babu's garden house, which now belongs to the Mutt. It was a rented house, and the monastics used to stay there when Belur Mutt was being constructed. The land was purchased, but it was a very, very bad land which had to be leveled. And Swami Vijnananand and all worked very hard. So during that period, Holy Mother was either on a pilgrimage accompanied by Yogin Ma, who has written these reminiscences, and she used to now and then come to Calcutta either stay in Lakshmi Niwas, which was in Bagh Bazaar. There was some other places where temporarily, when Sister Nivedita was there, there was a place in Bospada Lane where mother lived for a few months. So Nivedita looked after her, and then there were other householder disciples, and especially these nun-like women. They were not nuns officially, except Gauri Ma, who had taken formal sannyasa. Other than Gauri Ma, all of them were widowers. They were child widowers. They were child widows, and they right from childhood they were uh, following a austere life. So they found it very easy, and Holy Mother was also very comfortable living with this Yogin Ma, Gulab Ma, who used to help her in various ways. Though she lived with Radhu and other people who were giving her a lot of trouble, she combined in herself the intensity of a monastic life combined with all the responsibilities of a householder life. So it was a wonderful combination. And during this period, when Holy Mother was unsure, you see, there was so much uncertainty in her life. She lived for nearly 34 years after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna. A major portion of her life was spent in Kamarpukur, practically having nothing to eat because the 7 rupees which Sri Ramakrishna had arranged for her was stopped by Ramlal Dada. And she was struggling even to make ends meet. She did not have clothes, proper clothes to wear. She was used to wear torn clothes. And somehow from the rice she got from the fields, from the farms, which Sri Ramakrishna family possessed, and some greens which she grew, she somehow managed to survive. But after that, now and then, Yogin Ma and Swami Yogananda, who was the first disciple of Holy Mother, he and others accompanied her to various places of pilgrimage like Brindavan. She went even up to Brindavan, Banaras. She also went to Kankhal, Haridwar. She went up, climbed the Chandi hill. So she did a lot of traveling because that was a very natural way to spend her time, because it was so difficult to stay in Kamarpukur. So whenever she came to Calcutta, she used to stay sometimes in Balram Bose's house. They were great devotees. They were the only exception. All the other householder devotees somehow did not understand the difficulty, except Master Masha and Girish Chandra Ghosh, but they were not well-to-do people. They themselves were struggling with financial problems. But still, they contributed something to the Baranagar Mutt in the initial days, also contributed something to the Alam Bazar Mutt. Of course, the Maharaja of Khetri and others also gave some kind of financial help to this monastic brotherhood. And after the establishment of Belur Mutt, their condition improved much. But still, Holy Mother was struggling, and Swami Shardanandji, when he saw the difficulty Holy Mother had to face, at least for the last 9 years of her life, she could stay in her own house, which was known as Mother's House, and Udbodhan, at Udbodhan. So Udbodhan was the house built by Swami Sharadananda, and he decided not to ask any of the householder disciples for any help to build this. He took a loan and he repaid every penny. Though he was a monastic, he took the risk. People had advised him not to take a loan. But he said, for Mother, I will take this risk. He was so confident that, and he in fact started writing the monumental book, Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasang. So this great master is not an ordinary book. It was divinely ordained by the Divine Mother herself. It is such a powerful book, such an authentic biography of Sri Ramakrishna, that to know Sri Ramakrishna, one has to read this book. It has been retranslated as the Divine Play now, but the original name of the book was Sri Ramakrishna the Great Master. It was written in 5 volumes. The volume 3 was written first, and then Sri Ramakrishna started Swami Shardananji wrote Sri Ramakrishna's life, the second, then he wrote the third volume first, because Guru Bhav Purvardha, because that was the period when they started coming, and most of the incidents which are mentioned in the third part of the great master were recorded by Swami Shardanji himself. He was a witness to most of those events. So being very authentic, he did not want to write an unauthentic account of Sri Ramakrishna's life, because some of the householder disciples like Ramchandra Dutt had already published a brief biography of Sri Ramakrishna, and it was full of errors. So he decided for two reasons to write this book, and he took the blessings of Holy Mother. And he says he could not complete the fifth volume because Holy Mother passed away when she was in Udbodhan in 1921, and a little portion, the Antya Leela, the last portion of Sri Ramakrishna's life, he was about to write when Holy Mother entered Mahasamadhi. Perhaps it was not her will. And Sri Ramakrishna's incomplete biography, of course, only the very last few days were not recorded. He wanted to complete that book, but somehow it was published without completing. And the fifth volume, I mean, which discusses a lot about Narendranath, because he was not there. So obviously, he could not include many of the incidents which concern some of the direct disciples, or at least he could not name them because they were still alive. Some of them disciples were alive. But he could include the names of Swami Yogananda, who had passed away before Swami Vivekananda, and Swami Vivekananda. So the last fifth volume of the Great Master is Sri Ramakrishna and the Divya Bhav, Narendranath and Divya Bhav. So Divya Bhav is the last portion of his life, which was incomplete because he was preparing to write when Holy Mother entered into Mahasamadhi. And then many of the disciples and the monastics asked him to complete that book. But he said, I am powerless now. Mother, after the passing away of Holy Mother, my Shakti has gone. I feel as if I am powerless. It was she who made me write this book. She gave me the strength. And it was with her strength or her grace that he could take such a big risk and take a huge loan to build a beautiful, magnificent building, which you can see even today, the Udbodhan. Imagine a monastic without any fixed income taking a loan for the sake of mother. And none of the householder disciples even volunteered to, because some of them who are really genuinely devoted to the Holy Mother were not like Girish Ghosh. They did not have much money to spare for their own living. Even Master Mahashay, he was suffering a lot because he had so many debts and other things. So they were possibly not in a position to help. And the other disciples who used to visit frequently, the householder devotees, they were not to be seen. So Swami Shardananji was forced to write this book, and whatever profit he got by selling the book, the copies of the book, he used to use it for constructing that Udbodhan building, which took some time for the construction. He had to purchase the land and also take a loan to purchase the land and do all those things. So during the construction, or before the Holy Mother came to stay, after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, sometimes she used to stay as a guest of Balram Bose, whose house he used to welcome anybody, even Latu Maharaj and all, when there was no monastery. Whenever they fell sick in Baranagar, there was no proper arrangement for their treatment. It was Balram Bose who used to host these monks and cure them, look after the medical treatment, and then send them back. They would go back. So Latu Maharaj, Swami Turiyanandji, they all stayed here now and then. And Holy Mother also used to come. So I said, we spoke of an incident which happened in this Balram Bose's house, where Holy Mother passed into Samadhi while she was meditating. Because Yogin Ma was thinking that Sri Ramakrishna used to go very often into Samadhi. But What about Holy Mother, Sharda Devi? Was she incapable of these great spiritual experiences which Sri Ramakrishna had? So one day she saw uh, the mother, this incident is recorded by Yogin Ma. She says, I traveled to a far away country when she regained external consciousness after that wonderful vision and experience. She narrated to Yogin Ma what she had seen. She said, I found I had traveled to a faraway country and everybody there was showing her, was talking to her and showing utmost kindness with great tenderness. They were talking to her. They were all whites. My appearance, then she says, they were all having a strange skin, I mean white skin. In those days, people who lived in other countries, faraway countries like England and all, they would be called as white skinned people because the Indian skin was brown. So then she saw that in that country, when she visited, not only those people were looking after her with great reverence and taking great care of her, showing great tenderness towards her, and suddenly she saw that her color, her whole skin color was totally transformed, and she saw herself as exceedingly, she suddenly got an exceedingly beautiful experience like some deity, like some Devi. And the master who was present was affectionately asked her to come and sit by his side. So in that vision, she saw herself in a strange country with a lot of white people, and she was also looking extremely beautiful, and the master also came. And then she says, I suddenly found that I was full of joy seeing Thakur there, Sri Ramakrishna there. And when she regained her consciousness, strangely, she noticed that her own shriveled body, the body which was sick, she was already sick, she had so many diseases, the physical body which was worn out with so much of hard work, suffering, and the skin had become discolored and wrinkles had appeared. So she saw suddenly, after, when she was seeing the master and all those people looking after her tenderly, she suddenly saw, when she regained consciousness, that when she regained a little body consciousness, she noticed her own body lying nearby as if she had an out of body experience. Then she began to wonder, how can I enter into that hideous corpse? It definitely, when you leave the body, it becomes a corpse. And then she felt that in that state, she could not enter that corpse. She said, after all, it's a useless corpse now. How can I enter? I did not feel the least inclined to get into it once again. She said, I've left it. I'm so happy now. Why should I go? After a long while. So this is a wonderful out of body experience which shows that people, yogis, or people who have incarnated, the Avatara Purushas or the great saints, can now and then get this out of body experience. So after a long while, she had to convince her subtle body to enter into the so-called old body which was lying as a corpse. And then she says, after a while, when I forced myself, no, this is your body, you have to go back, she regained her body consciousness. So this is a wonderful experience which she narrated. So it was not that she did not have samadhi, but as we have recorded Sri Ramakrishna's various states of samadhi, which was happening almost every day. If you read the Great Master, there are wonderful experiences which Sri Ramakrishna tried to narrate. Very often he says, I am helpless. Divine Mother is, as it were, holding my neck tight and not allowing me to utter these words. But I see some wonderful experiences. I am very keen to tell you all. He was like a child. He wanted to express the wonderful visions, the very powerful visions he had. many of which tallied with the scriptures and tallied with those of the Puranas, where so many scriptures, so many signs are mentioned of Samadhi. So Sri Ramakrishna underwent all those experiences. But many of the experiences have been recorded. But unfortunately, Holy Mother's experiences, now and then she used to reveal it to her intimate disciples. And whatever she has revealed, those were recorded by Yogin Ma and those who were her constant companions. So this was one experience which shows that these great yogis or these great spiritual personalities have the capacity to enter or leave the body at will. Imagine a situation where you go and experience so many visions outside of your body, and then especially when you are old, and when you feel as if entering the body is such a big pain, because when you enter the body, when you identify yourself with the body, with the gross body, I mean, the Annamaya Kosha and the Pranamaya Kosha, then all the troubles, ailments which one has to bear, the very thought of that is not a very good thought. So mother was not inclined to come back. But then some divine purpose was there. She had to live and to become an object lesson for future humanity, especially the women. So Sri Ramakrishna had left her behind. There was a task which she had to finish. And that task lasted for more than 34 years after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna. So she took a big responsibility and she had to enter the body which she did not want to. So that is one experience. Then another day, the Nilambar Babu's garden house, which is now part of Belur Math, it is adjacent to the Belur Math campus. Whenever Holy Mother came, because she could not stay in the monastery, she used to stay in the guest house or the house, Nilambar Babu's house, which was purchased or which was rented, and some of the monastics used to look after it. So that became a permanent guest house. When other Western disciples used to come, they used to stay in that big house, which now has been renovated. Now monastics stay there. But in those days, it was the place where she was staying, and that was the place where she did the Panchatapa for the benefit of all her disciples and devotees. She did tapasya. The Panchatapa means 4 fires on 4 corners, east, west, north, and south. Fires were lit. She sat on the terrace, and that is the roof of the Nilambar Babu's house. That is where she did. The roof is the terrace, and that is the place where she sat at the center. In summer, when the hot midday sun was just above, and she started the tapasya or the Panchatapa japa by doing japa, sitting in the midst of 4 blazing fires in the hot sun. Can you imagine? After that, her skin permanently became dark and black because of the heat from all the 4 sides and heat from the top. So somebody told her that she should, this is the Panchatapa which scriptures have prescribed. So that was the great austerity she did. And on that roof, one day she was sitting, and Golab Didi, that is Yogin Ma is writing this, reminiscent, and I, Holy Mother, Golab Didi, and Yogin Ma, all the 3 were meditating. She used to normally meditate on the terrace, not in her room. So the roof of the Nilambar Babu, where she did her Panchatapa, and that Panchatapa she started before sunrise and it ended at sunset. So it was a 12-hour long Japa Yagna which she did. She did a lot of meditation there for the welfare of humanity, for the welfare of her disciples. So on that very roof, one day she, Holy Mother, Golab Didi, Golab Ma, and Yogin Ma were sitting. When her meditation was over, when Yogin Ma's meditation was over, she noticed that Mother was totally absorbed in meditation and motionless in samadhi. When after a long while she regained partial consciousness, she began to say, "Oh Yogin, where are my hands? Where are my feet?" She again got this out of body experience. So she said, "Where are my hands? Where are my feet?" She started shouting. And then so both the disciples, I mean both Yoginma and Golapma, immediately went to Holy Mothers and said, "Here are your feet." And they started massaging her hands and feet and trying to press it just to tell her that these are your hands and these are your feet. She was not, she had that out of body experience. But in spite of this, it took Holy Mother a long, though they pressed, she started shouting, "I don't see, I can't feel my body." She was totally transported to another plane. So she said, Yoginma observed that even though they started pressing her hands and feet just to make her conscious of the conscious of the body, it took a long time for Holy Mother to come down from the plane of Samadhi to, to regain the body consciousness once again. So this was the second incident. Once more, in the Kala Babu's grove in Vrindavan. Kala Babu's Kunj is a small house which Balram Bose had built. The house belonged to Balram Bose. As all of you know, he was a very rich zamindar. He had property in Puri and he had property in Kothar, that is Orissa, and also he had some houses. They were very big zamindars, a very rich family, but he rarely spent money. He used all the money in the service of Sri Ramakrishna and all the other devotees. So you will find Sri Ramakrishna always coming and blessing the devotee in Balram Bose's house. More than 100 times he has visited. And that was the only house of any devotee which he visited. So not only visited so many times, he used to say, "The food that I eat here is very pure." He did not mind eating in Balram's house because he was a man of such great devotion. So he used to give the keys when Holy Mother decided to go on a pilgrimage to Vrindavan, or the keys of their house, the sort of guest house which he had, the Kala Babu's Kunj now is belongs to the mission now. It is part of our Vrindavan ashram. So there she used to often stay and they used to do tapasya there. He used to make all arrangements for cooking and other things. So Holy Mother spent a lot of time in Vrindavan. Once she was meditating there in that house, she became absorbed in samadhi. This is the third incident which Yoginma has recorded. All attempts to bring her mind down to the physical plane proved futile. Then Yoginma says, "I repeated the Lord's name in her ears for a long time, but it produced no effect." Because they knew that when Sri Ramakrishna used to go into Samadhi, to bring him down from the formless level to the level where one worships God with form, they used to utter the name of Krishna or Rama, and he had specifically told, suppose some Krishna Kirtan was going on, and then he went into Nirvikalpa or that highest Samadhi, then they had to utter, they knew that, and all the devotees also knew that they had to utter the name of that particular Ishta or that particular deity on whom he was meditating before, or listening to their songs before he went into Samadhi. So that was the easiest way to bring him back to the world with form. So he used to simply be transported to the formless experience of Samadhi. So Holy Mother also, following the footsteps of Sri Ramakrishna, many times she used to go, but very few people have recorded it. But here, this is the third recording which Yoginma herself observed, because they were present there and they tried to bring her down because they did not know which mantra to use, how to bring her down. She repeated whatever Lord's name she knew, she repeated loudly in her ears for a long time, hoping that she would come down. At last, Swami Yogananda came and repeated Sri Ramakrishna's name. Perhaps he repeated the same name which he had got. He was Holy Mother's first disciple. So perhaps he repeated his own mantra there, or Sri Ramakrishna's name at least, which he might have got from Holy Mother. And that brought her mind down to the semi-conscious plane. Then, just as the master, as Sri Ramakrishna used to do on similar occasions, she said, I will eat something. So some sweets, water and betel were placed before her, and she partook of a little of each, as the master used to do towards the end of such periods of ecstasy. So Sri Ramakrishna knew that whenever he came back, he needed some gross thing, some worldly objects to keep his mind forcibly down. It's quite opposite of what we try. We try to see that our mind is not bound by the gross things of the world. We have to struggle to lift our mind. Whereas Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother had to struggle to bring the mind from the subtle and the causal and the level beyond, the transcendental level, from samadhi to back to the gross level. So the natural tendency for their consciousness was to go into the transcendental realm, and with great difficulty they could bring it back. So before they started meditating, they would keep some silly desires, like I should eat some sweets, some water, so that when they came down, when the mind comes down, if they don't eat these things, then they will again soar back to that transcendental state. And then when she did that, Yogin Ma says they were reminded of Sri Ramakrishna. She used to do exactly, she did exactly the same thing which Sri Ramakrishna did. Asked for some sweets, water, and towards the end of the ecstasy, he used to drink all these things, eat these things. And when the beetle was, she took in her hand, she exactly followed the same procedure which Sri Ramakrishna used to do, the same position. So it is as it were Sri Ramakrishna had possessed the personality of Holy Mother. She had converted. That is why Swami Abhedanandji writes so beautifully, Ramakrishna Gata Prana Tannama Shravana Priya. Ramakrishna Gata Prana means one whose prana has become one with that of her master. Tannama, his name, Shravana Priya, she likes to hear. So Yogananda knew this, that the moment she has merged into this highest realm, to bring her back, Sri Ramakrishna's name should be used. And the moment she started, Yogananda started repeating the master's name, she came down, and exactly just as the master used to drink some water and eat the betel, all were surprised to see that her manners, her way of taking food, her general behavior exactly resembled, because they had seen Sri Ramakrishna doing this day in and day out. The sevaks had seen. They had observed Sri Ramakrishna, but they had not observed Holy Mother. But here Holy Mother exactly followed the same actions, the same way of taking food, the general behavior, everything resembled the master Sri Ramakrishna. When she finally came down to the plane of physical consciousness, the mother told us that the spirit of the master had entered into her at that time. So perhaps she was meditating on Sri Ramakrishna, and suddenly Sri Ramakrishna possessed her. The spirit entered her, and she started doing exactly following the same thing as Sri Ramakrishna did. Then Swami Yogananda, in that state, Swami Yogananda took this opportunity and put to her some questions while she was in that mode, that semi-conscious mode. And to his surprise, she was actually replied very much in the using the mannerisms which Sri Ramakrishna used. So that proves Swami Yogananda was really surprised to see how she was behaving like Sri Ramakrishna in that state. So a few days after the passing of the master, the householder devotees like Ram Datta settled off the rent of the Kashipur garden house, and all of them decided that we'll give it up. So the mother had nowhere else to go. So she was taken to the house of Balram Babu. That was the only place where she was welcome in Calcutta, because she was not yet ready to go back, as Sri Ramakrishna had told her, to her own house, Sri Ramakrishna's house in Kamarpukur. And it was so difficult to live there alone. Soon after, the mother went on a pilgrimage. So how long you will stay in somebody's house? So they decided, Balram Bose also, she said, I feel very uncomfortable, so I would go on a pilgrimage. So mother went on a pilgrimage in the company of Yogen Maharaj, that is Swami Yogananda, Kali Maharaj, Swami Abhedananda, his name was Kali Prasanna Maharaj, Latu Maharaj, who was also free. All these young Yogananda, Kali Maharaj and all had practically given up their homes. And they were also living here and there. And Lakshmi Didi and a few others. The party stopped at Varanasi, where they spent 8 to 10 days. Finally arriving at Vrindavan, the mother resided at Kala Babu's Kunj for about a year. For 1 year, she stayed there. So Latu Maharaj, Yogen Maharaj and all, sometimes they also used to go and beg for food outside, because they did not want to burden Holy Mother. So normally, because they were monks, they could beg. And in Vrindavan and all, it was very easy. Even in Banaras, it was easy for monastics to beg for food. So they used to sometimes beg and eat outside, but at the same time, they used to serve Holy Mother. So she had finally arriving at Vrindavan, the mother resided at Kalababu's grove for about a year. And Yogin Ma says she had come to Vrindavan a little earlier than Holy Mother, before the demise, a few weeks before the demise of the master. So Yogin Ma was not there when Sri Ramakrishna's Mahasamadhi took place on 14th August, 1886. She had already come and was living in Vrindavan before, even a few weeks before Holy Mother came there. On meeting me, Yogin Ma is writing, on meeting me at Vrindavan, Holy Mother clasped me to her bosom, crying in grief, "O Yogin," and began to weep bitterly. After the death of the master, this was my first meeting with her. At the beginning of her stay in Vrindavan, the mother used to weep often. One day the master appeared before her and said, "Well, why are you crying so much? Here I am. Where have I gone? It is just like going from one room to another." So, as usual, we find in the life of Ramchandra also, when Sita was taken away by Ravana and he lost all hopes of finding her, he also wept like a human being. So it is very, very common that Swami Shardananji is explained in great detail how, when you take up the human form, you have to voluntarily accept all the human emotions, all the human feelings, all the human sorrows, all the human pains, troubles, tribulations, everything you have to take upon yourself. So Holy Mother naturally used to weep, and she held Yogin Ma that Sri Ramakrishna is no more. But then Sri Ramakrishna, the ideal guru that he was, comes to Holy Mother and tells him, "Why are you crying so much? Don't you see I am still here? Where have I gone? It is just like going from one room into another, giving up one body and taking up another body. What does it matter?" One day in Vrindavan, the Holy Mother saw a dead body being carried to the cremation ground, and it was decked with flowers and to the accompaniment of devotional songs. On seeing the procession, she said, Look how blessed this person is to die in holy Vrindavan. I also came here to die. Strangely enough, I haven't had the trace of even a fever. And yet, how old am I? I have seen such elderly persons as my father and my husband's elder brother. At this, we laughed and said, Indeed, you saw your father. Who does not see one's father? So, Holy Mother was so much filled with grief that she had thought, what's the point in living now? Let me go to Brindavan, which is a holy place. People, Vaishnavas prefer to die in Brindavan just as the devotees of Shiva or many other people would like to die in Banaras. So she says, seeing the dead body, instead of feeling sad, she says how lucky he is. This person has died. And I also came here to die after the passing away of the master. I felt nothing is there left for me to do. And I see that I don't even get a fever, leave alone getting terribly sick. So then he says, how old I have become and still I am still alive. Younger people have been dying. My father has died. My husband's elder brother has died. I have seen them dying. Then everybody laughs. It is natural. They were much older than you. So naturally you will see them dying earlier than you. What is so strange about it? And how old have you grown? You're not old enough. Anyway, in those days, mother indulged in such childish talk. She was in a totally different plane. She was so much grief stricken as any ordinary human being would behave. And they had to console him. Sometimes Sri Ramakrishna himself had to console him and tell him, why are you grieving so much? Don't you see I've just changed my room? I've just gone from one room into another. Now, in Brindavan, at first the mother wept bitterly for the master, but later on, by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, she always appeared to be immersed in bliss. And the whole temperament changed by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. After Sri Ramakrishna appeared to her and told her, assured her that he has not died, he had just given up the physical body. Then the Holy Mother, her nature changed like a carefree girl. She became very free. She was anyway free. Mentally, she was never bound, neither to Radhu nor to any of her relatives, leave alone her own brothers. Though she took care of Radhu and all those people, she was always living a detached life. So here, because she once said that I feel there is a picture of bliss when Sri Ramakrishna was there. I used to feel so free from bondage. And I felt that there was absolutely no sorrow anywhere in the world, as if a picture of bliss was in my heart. So she regains that state here in Banaras, in Vrindavan, and she becomes like a carefree girl, a carefree girl who is not bound, not enmeshed in bondage. Because in those days, especially, women suffered terrible bondage. If you were a widow, you were bound. Society would put so much restriction on the movement of women. Even when the husbands were alive, they had to undergo so much of trouble. And it was rare to find, only when the child is young, when the girls are very, very young, they could roam around free. But now, Holy Mother, very strangely, after the vision of Sri Ramakrishna, felt as if she is like a carefree girl. So all these things were observed by Yogin Ma. And she found that Holy Mother was in a totally different mood after that. She used to go around the temples daily because there are so many temples in Vrindavan. So she was absolutely carefree and forgot all the grief, stopped all the weeping. And one day in the temple of Radharamana, it appeared to her as if Naugopal Babu's wife was standing by the side of the image of Radharamana and fanning it. On returning home, the mother said to me, Yogin, Naugopal's wife is very pure. I saw her like this. So these were the visions with which they would judge the householder disciples. It is that same Naugopal who made a beautiful marble statue of Sri Ramakrishna and installed it in uh, her house, Navgopal Babu. So her husband was not such a spiritual person, but she was very pure and very much devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. So, and then that was corroborated by this vision when she saw in Vrindavan all of a sudden near the deity, she saw that in a subtle form, Navagopal Babu's wife was standing beside the image of Radha Ramana and fanning the deity. So then she said, his wife should be very pure, otherwise how can I see? One day at Vrindavan, the master appeared before the mother and said, this is a very significant event. Initiate Yogen with this mantra. He also gave the mantra. Perhaps it was his own mantra, we do not know. So he not only gave her instructions, but also gave the mantra in a subtle form. He came and said, initiate Yogen. Yogen was Swami Yogananda. Though we consider him to be the disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, because he came to Sri Ramakrishna first, but as an initiated disciple, he is the first initiated disciple of Holy Mother. She first thought it was a freak in her mind. She had not even thought of giving Diksha, Mantra Diksha to anybody. First she thought, oh, maybe it is just a dream, some kind of vision. On the second day, the vision was repeated, but still she did not pay any heed to it. Oh, it must be just figment of my mind. But Sri Ramakrishna came on the third day. Again, she had that vision again. So it was not in a dream, it was just a vision which she had, where Sri Ramakrishna comes and says, go and give initiation, give this mantra to Yogen. She said to the master, Yogananda, as you all know, in those days, they would never mix with, they would not speak with the wife of their guru. And she was very shy. In those days, she always used to cover her head with a veil, as that was the custom in those days. They rarely came out. And Yogananda and all, they used to serve from a distance. They felt hesitant to even go near mother. They used to stay separately and come and help whatever help was needed, go on errands, buy certain things and all those things. So Holy Mother said, I don't even speak to him. It was not very common for women, especially married women, to speak, or people who had lost their husband, widows, to even meet with male devotees. So he said, how can I initiate him? I have never ever spoken to him. She used to talk even to Swami Brahmananda, Girish Ghosh and all indirectly. She used to tell something and Gulab Ma or Yogin Ma used to convey, and then the answer would be again. She used to speak so softly. She was so shy and so conservative. So she was hesitating. How can I tell Yogen, you come, I'll give you Diksha? Then how can I initiate him? The master said, don't worry, ask daughter Yogin Ma to be present. So in the presence of Yogin Ma, he says, ask daughter Yogin to be with you at the time of initiation. So she was present there. Then the mother asked Swami Yogananda, through me means through Yogin Ma. I said, since Thakur has allowed you to sit when I initiate him, because she was feeling shy, how can I call him and give Diksha? We never talk like that. In those days, it was not very common. Then one day she asked Yogin Ma and said, go and ask him if he has got initiation already from Thakur or somebody else. Then he replied, no, mother, the master did not give me any Ishta mantra. I repeat a holy name of my own choice. On hearing this, one day the Holy Mother initiated him. The mother was worshipping before a picture of the master and the urn containing his relics. So the relics were there. So she sent for Yogananda and asked him to sit in front of her. While performing worship, she went into samadhi. And in that state, she went into ecstasy and gave the mantra which Sri Ramakrishna had given her. And she uttered the mantra so loudly that Yogin Ma could hear it in the next room. So normally when the mantra is given, the others are not supposed to be present there. But Holy Mother, because Thakur had asked Yogin Ma to be present there, she was there in the next room, but Holy Mother in that state literally spoke the mantra or uttered the mantra so loudly that Yogananda could hear. Yogin Ma could hear it in the next room. Then from Vrindavan, they went to Haridwar. Swami Yogananda was in the party, and so many incidents took place there where Yogananda was miraculously saved. Actually, when she was feeding, there was some pomegranate juice she had made, and she gave that glass to Yogananda to drink. Suddenly, she found that Yogananda, she felt as if she was feeding the master. She could see Sri Ramakrishna in him, that strange vision she had. And suddenly she saw a hideous looking figure which was coming towards Yogananda. She saw a very evil spirit that was a haunted place. And that spirit said to Yogananda, I would have taught you a lesson, but what can I do? Sri Ramakrishna has ordered me to leave this place right now. I am able to stay here even for a moment. And then Sri Ramakrishna, pointing to the woman wearing a red bordered sari, the figure further said, feed this woman with some rasgullas. So, curiously, Yogananda was relieved of his fever. He was suffering from some high fever. So, when she saw the image of Govinda in Jaipur, the image of Sri Krishna, who is known as Govinda there, she noticed an image by the side of a temple and cried out, I was asked to offer rasgullas to that deity. That day, and that was Shitala Devi. Shitala means it is smallpox. They say the deity in the form of Shitala causes smallpox. Smallpox was a very dangerous disease like plague. People had very little chance. If one had smallpox and the accompanied fever, that fever would kill that person. So somehow Shitala Devi perhaps would have, Swami Yogananda would have died, but Sri Ramakrishna came and told that Shitala Devi or that spirit to leave Yogananda, and as a she gave a vision. Holy Mother had a vision where she was told, go and offer some rasgulla, some sweets to the deity and that deity she could see in the Govinda temple in Jaipur, Govindji's temple in Jaipur, where there are so many other deities also. So she offered those rasgullas as she had seen in that vision. So in the next class, then she returns to Calcutta, and there are other very interesting incidents about Sri Ma Sharda Devi, which we can come to know only through the reminiscences of Yogin Ma, who was her close companion. Otherwise, based on this, Swami Gambhirananji and others have written a beautiful biography, and now recently a new biography, Sri Ma Sharda Devi, the Divine Play, which is more, which has more incidents, because Swami Chaitananandji has collected these reminiscences and arranged them chronologically. He has worked very hard to write a very authentic biography in English, because till now only Bengali readers could read so many things about Holy Mother. So many books were published by this Mayar Katha and all those things. But then taking those events, Swami Chaitananandji has done a wonderful work, and just like he wrote Sri Ramakrishna, the Divine Play, which is of course a translation of Shardanji's book, not translation, a revised edition in slightly easier English, more readable English, as opposed to the Victorian English which was used to translate the great master. It was a very difficult type of Victorian English which the Leela Prasang was translated into the book Great Master. So Chetananji decided to make a much more lucid translation of the same Leela Prasanga, and now he has named it Sri Ram Krishna, the Divine Play. But the other book which he wrote is a very big book, the most exhaustive autobiography biography of Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi, where he has taken all these wonderful incidents found in so many Bengali original books which were published long ago, some reminiscences of the Holy Mother, and then he has all put them in a very coherent way in that beautiful book, Sri Ma Sharda Devi, the Divine Play. So I'll take leave. Let me see if there are some questions. Yeah, in the chat, there are no questions. So I think I can take your leave. We have already exceeded the time. So we will meet tomorrow for our gospel class as usual at 5:30. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.
Pranam Maharaj.
Namaste.
Namaste, Swamiji. Thank
Namaste.
you.
Any questions? Anybody would like to ask? Okay, I'll take your leave.
Pranam.
Namaste. Yes.
Namaste. No, I just want to thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.